When the Alpha King's claws punctured through my wedding dress instead of tearing it off, I knew something was terribly wrong. He was trying to warn me, not claim me. But I'm getting ahead of myself. My name is Mira Ashwood, and 3 weeks ago, I was nobody. Just another Omega from the Greyvale border pack, spending my days in the kitchen gardens and my nights wondering if I'd ever be more than invisible. Then the summons came. The Alpha King required a mate. My name had been chosen from hundreds. No one explained why. No one dared ask. The journey to the Obsidian Palace took 2 days. My parents cried. My sister packed my belongings with shaking hands. The other Omegas whispered their condolences like I was already dead. They all knew the stories about Hadrian Blackthorn, how he'd killed his own father to take the throne, how he'd crushed 3 rival packs in a single month, how his previous intended mate had fled the palace screaming and was never seen again. Monster, they called him. Beast. The Blood King. I tried not to think about any of it as the carriage rolled through the palace gates. The Obsidian Palace earned its name. Black stone towers scraped the sky, sharp and angular like wolf fangs. Guards lined the entrance, each one massive, their eyes tracking my movement with predatory focus. I kept my head down, my hands folded, everything my mother taught me about surviving as an Omega in an Alpha's world. They led me to a preparation chamber where attendants bathed me, oiled my skin, and dressed me in a gown of white silk so thin it barely existed. Traditional mating attire. Meant to be torn away. He'll be gentle at first, one attendant whispered, not unkindly. They say he always is, before. She didn't finish. She didn't need to. The ceremony hall was enormous, lit by 1,000 candles that made shadows dance across the vaulted ceiling. Pack elders filled the space, alphas and betas from every major pack in the kingdom, all watching, all judging. Political alliances hung in the balance. My family's safety depended on this union being legitimate, being final. And then I saw him. Hadrian Blackthorn stood at the altar in black ceremonial robes, and my first thought was that the rumors had gotten it wrong. He wasn't a monster. He was beautiful. Tall and broad-shouldered, with dark hair that fell across his forehead and eyes like winter storms, gray and turbulent and somehow sad. My second thought was that beautiful things could still be deadly. I walked the endless aisle alone. No father to give me away, Omega tradition dictated I came to my Alpha as my own offering. Each step felt like walking toward my own execution. But when I reached him and dared to glance up, he smiled. It was small, almost hesitant, and it transformed his entire face. "Hello, Mira," he said softly. His voice was nothing like I expected, not a growl or a snarl, but gentle, almost warm. "I'm glad you're here." I didn't know what to say to that. No one had warned me he'd be kind. The High Elder began the ceremony, droning through the ancient words that would bind us. I barely heard them. I was too focused on Hadrian, on the way he kept his hands carefully at his sides, never reaching for me, never assuming. When the Elder called for us to exchange vows, Hadrian spoke as clearly, his eyes never leaving mine. "I, Hadrian Blackthorn, Alpha King of the Northern Territories, take you, Mira Ashwood, as my mate. I vow to protect you, provide for you, and honor you all the days of my life." My turn. My voice came out barely above a whisper, but I got through it. Then came the moment I'd been dreading. The claiming. "The bond must be sealed," the High Elder announced, his voice echoing through the hall. "Consummate the mating. Now, before the pack, as tradition demands." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Some eager, some hungry. This was the part they'd come to see, the mighty Alpha King claiming his Omega, asserting his dominance, proving his power. Hadrian's jaw tightened. His eyes flashed gold, pure Alpha, pure wolf, and for a heartbeat, I saw what everyone feared. The beast. The killer. Then he blinked, and it was gone. "No," he said quietly. The hall went silent. "Your Majesty," the High Elder's voice shook. "The bond must be completed. It is law." It is tradition. Without consummation, the mating is not legitimate. The alliances. I said no. Hadrian's voice remained soft, but now it carried the weight of absolute authority. My mate and I will complete the bond when she is ready. Not before. Not for tradition, not for politics, not for anyone in this room. But the girl's family, another elder protested. Her pack's protection depends on. Her pack's protection is guaranteed by my word. Hadrian's eyes swept the room, daring anyone to challenge him. Is my word not enough? No one spoke. No one dared. He turned to me then, and his expression softened. I'm sorry, he said, so quietly only I could hear. I know this isn't what you expected. But I won't. I can't. He stopped, something painful crossing his face. You don't have to be afraid of me. But I was afraid. Just not for the reasons I should be. The elders dismissed the gathering with obvious displeasure. Alliances might hold, but rumors would spread. An alpha king who couldn't claim his mate? Weakness. Scandal. Hadrian led me through winding corridors to the royal chambers. His chambers. Our chambers now. He opened the door and gestured for me to enter first, never touching me, always keeping distance between us. The room was massive, dominated by an enormous bed draped in dark furs. A fire crackled in the hearth. Moonlight poured through tall windows. You must be exhausted, Hadrian said, moving to a side table where wine waited. Would you like something to drink? Are you hungry? I can have food brought. Why? The word burst out before I could stop it. He turned, surprised. Why what? Why are you being kind to me? I wrapped my arms around myself, suddenly cold despite the fire. Everyone says you're a monster. That you killed your father. That you've destroyed anyone who stood against you. That your last intended mate ran away because I'm a monster, he finished quietly. He poured 2 glasses of wine with steady hands. And everything you've heard is true. I did kill my father. I have destroyed my enemies. And yes, my previous intended fled. He crossed the room and held out a glass. I took it, our fingers brushing for just an instant. His skin was burning hot. But, he continued, I'm trying to be better. With you. For you. He took a long drink. You deserve better than what this kingdom expects. Better than what I am. What are you? I asked. Something flickered in his eyes. Pain. Fear. More than I can explain. And less than you deserve. He started to turn away, to leave me alone on our wedding night, and that's when the moonlight shifted. It poured through the window and across his back, and I saw them. Scars. They covered him, his arms, his neck, disappearing under his collar and cuffs. But these weren't normal scars. They moved. In the moonlight, they writhed across his skin like living things, like shadows trapped beneath the surface. I gasped. Hadrian froze. Slowly, he looked down at his hands, seeing what I saw. The scars were glowing faintly, pulsing with each beat of his heart. You weren't supposed to see that, he whispered. What are they? Reminders. His voice went hollow. Punishments. Warnings. Of what? He turned to face me fully, and in the moonlight, I could see all of them, hundreds of scars, crisscrossing his skin in patterns that almost looked deliberate, like some kind of cage. His eyes met mine, and they were full of such anguish that my heart clenched. You don't have to fear me, he said, but his voice cracked on the last word. I would never hurt you, Mira. Never. No matter what it costs me. What would it cost you? He opened his mouth to answer, but suddenly his whole body went rigid. The scars flared brighter. His hands curled into fists, and I heard the terrible sound of bones shifting, cracking. His claws emerged, not the normal alpha claws I'd seen before, but something else. Something wrong. They were too long, too sharp, black as obsidian and dripping with shadow. Hadrian? You need to leave. His voice was strained, barely human. Now. Please. But I couldn't move. I watched in horror as his claws extended further, reaching for me, and then, with visible effort, he twisted his hand away. His claws punctured through the delicate silk of my wedding dress, shredding the fabric, but carefully, deliberately missing my skin. He was trying to warn me, not claim me. Run, he gasped, falling to his knees. The scars were moving faster now, writhing across his entire body. Run, Mira. Before it. The moonlight grew brighter, and I finally understood. He wasn't just scarred. He was cursed. And whatever that curse was, it was waking up. Wanting to see what would happen next, subscribe to this channel to get to listen to more of our upcoming exciting stories. Click on the subscribe button now. Thank you. Chapter 2. 3 weeks. 21 days of living with a monster who read poetry by the fire and brought me wildflowers from the palace gardens. 21 nights of sleeping in the same massive bed with an ocean of space between us, listening to him breathe in the darkness, wondering why my heart raced every time he said my name. I was falling for my husband, and it was the most terrifying thing I'd ever experienced. Again, Hadrian called from across the training yard, his shirt clinging to his shoulders with sweat. You're telegraphing your moves. An opponent will see that lunge coming from a mile away. I adjusted my grip on the practice sword, trying not to notice how the morning sun caught in his dark hair, how his rare smile transformed his entire face when I finally got a move right. Like this? I lunged forward, faster this time. He sidestepped easily, catching my wrist and gently redirecting the blade. Better. But you're still hesitating at the last second. You need to commit fully or not at all. His hand was warm on my wrist. We stood close enough that I could see the silver flecks in his gray eyes, close enough to smell cedar and winter on his skin. 3 weeks, and he'd never once touched me without permission, never crowded me, never assumed. And I was starting to wish he would. Mira? His voice brought me back. Are you all right? Yes. Sorry. I was just. I stepped back, heat flooding my cheeks. Can we try again? Something flickered in his expression, awareness, maybe, or longing, but he nodded and moved back into position. We'd fallen into routines, Hadrian and I, mornings in the training yard where he taught me to defend myself, afternoons in his study where he patiently explained the intricate web of pack politics, evenings by the fire where we talked about everything and nothing. He told me about growing up in the palace, about the weight of the crown, about his favorite constellations. I told him about my simple life in Greyvale, about the sister I missed, about my dreams of seeing the ocean someday. What we didn't talk about were the scars that moved in the moonlight, or the wedding night that ended with him fleeing, or the fact that our marriage remained unconsummated while the entire pack watched and whispered. The council meets this afternoon, Hadrian said as we walked back toward the palace, his voice careful. They'll likely bring up the mating bond again. My stomach tightened. They can't actually annul our marriage, can they? You're the Alpha King. I am. But the king rules by the consent of the pack, and the pack expects certain traditions to be upheld. He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture I'd learned meant he was troubled. They're starting to question whether I'm fit to rule. An Alpha King who won't claim his mate appears weak. Uncertain. That's ridiculous. You're the strongest person I've ever met. He stopped walking and turned to face me, his expression intense. Am I? Or am I just a coward hiding behind pretty words and empty gestures? Hadrian. I've put you in an impossible position, Mira. You have no protection here without a completed bond. The unmated Omegas in court already target you, the Beta's mate makes cutting remarks, and I've done nothing to secure your safety because I'm too afraid to. He cut himself off, jaw clenching. Too afraid to what? I stepped closer. Hadrian, what happened that night? What are those scars? Why won't you tell me the truth? For a long moment, he just looked at me. Then, quietly, walk with me. Please. There's something I need to show you. He led me through the palace gardens to a private courtyard I'd never seen before. A single stone monument stood in the center, covered in climbing roses. As we approached, I could read the inscription, Lyanna Blackthorn. Beloved mate. Forever mourned. Your first mate, I said softly. Yes. Hadrian's voice was hollow. We'd been together since we were children. She was brilliant, brave, everything a Luna should be. We were mated for 2 years before. He touched the stone gently. Before the attack. What attacked you? Rogues. A whole pack of them, targeting the palace. They came at night, during the full moon when we were supposed to be at our strongest. His hand dropped from the monument, curling into a fist. Lyanna fought beside me. She was fierce, unstoppable. But there were too many, and I couldn't protect her. They tore into me, into her. I still remember her screaming my name. The pain in his voice made my chest ache. The scars are from that night. When I woke up 3 days later, Lyanna was gone. The healers said her wounds were too severe. That she'd suffered. His eyes met mine, full of old agony. I couldn't save her, Mira. I was supposed to be the Alpha King, and I couldn't save the one person who mattered most. I reached for his hand without thinking. His fingers closed around mine, trembling slightly. That's why you're so gentle with me, I said. You're afraid of failing again. I'm afraid of destroying you. He squeezed my hand once, then released it. Everyone I care about gets hurt. My father, Lyanna, even my beta nearly died in a border skirmish last year because I sent him there. I'm not gentle, Mira. I'm cursed. That's not. Your Majesty. The voice cut through the garden like a blade. We turned to find Marcus, Hadrian's beta, approaching with 3 council members. All of them wore expressions carved from stone. We need to speak with you. Immediately. Hadrian's entire demeanor shifted, becoming the cold, commanding king everyone feared. Marcus. Counselors. This is a private moment. Which is precisely the problem. Counselor Thorn, the eldest, stepped forward. His gaze raked over me with obvious disdain. 3 weeks, Your Majesty. 3 weeks of marriage and still no mating bond. The packs grow restless. They question your strength, your virility, your ability to lead. My ability to lead is not determined by my bedroom activities. Isn't it? Counselor Vera's voice was sharp. An Alpha King must be powerful, must demonstrate dominance. You haven't even marked her. She walks around this palace with no protection, no claim, prey for any Alpha with ambitions. I felt Hadrian tense beside me. Furthermore, Marcus added, his tone carefully neutral but firm, without a completed bond, you're both vulnerable. The Luna has no pack connection, no power. And you, Your Majesty, appear uncertain. The other packs smell weakness. They're already whispering about challenges. Let them whisper. Let them challenge, you mean. Counselor Thorn's eyes narrowed. You cannot hold the throne on mercy and gentleness. Either complete the mating bond or we will petition for an annulment. The kingdom needs a strong Luna and an Alpha King who can prove his dominance. Are you threatening me? Hadrian's voice dropped to a lethal quiet. We're trying to save you, Marcus said. The full moon is tonight. It's tradition for newly mated pairs to complete their bond under the first full moon. If you don't. He glanced at me, something almost like pity in his eyes. If you don't, the council will have grounds to annul this marriage and choose a more suitable mate. For the good of the kingdom. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Get out, Hadrian said softly. All of you. Now. They left, but their ultimatum remained. Hadrian turned away from me, his shoulders rigid. I'm sorry. I should have fought harder to protect you from this. Hadrian. I moved to stand in front of him, forcing him to look at me. What if we just do it? Complete the bond? Would that really be so terrible? His laugh was bitter. You don't understand what you're asking. Then explain it to me. Stop protecting me from the truth and just tell me what's really happening. You want the truth? His eyes flashed gold. Fine. The scars don't just move in moonlight, Mira. They're part of a curse. One that makes every transformation agony, that turns me into something monstrous. The rogues that attacked us weren't normal wolves, they were cursed creatures, twisted things, and when they tore into me, they infected me. Lyanna didn't die from her wounds. She died trying to break the curse, and when the magic went wrong, when she started screaming and begging for death, His voice cracked. I mercy killed my own mate to end her suffering. The world seemed to tilt sideways. So no, Mira, I won't complete our bond. I won't risk turning you into the same kind of monster. I won't put you through what Lyanna endured. I'd rather lose my throne, my kingdom, everything, than watch you die because of me. But I'll go before the council tonight. I'll tell them to proceed with the annulment. You'll be free to return to your family, find a mate who can actually be what you need. He stepped back. I'm sorry I dragged you into this. You deserved so much better. He walked away before I could respond, leaving me standing alone in the garden with a dead woman's monument and the weight of impossible choices. The full moon rose like an accusation. I'd spent the afternoon pacing my chambers, replaying everything Hadrian had told me. A curse. His first mate dying in his arms. The council's ultimatum. The annulment that would leave me with nothing and send him spiraling toward losing everything he'd fought to build. I should have been relieved. This was my escape. I could go home, back to my simple life, forget about obsidian palaces and cursed kings and the way my heart ached every time he smiled. But I couldn't stop thinking about his expression when he talked about Lyanna. The guilt that ate at him. The loneliness that seemed to pour off him in waves despite his power, his throne, his kingdom. I was halfway through convincing myself to let him do this when someone knocked on my door. Come in, I called. Marcus entered, and this time he looked genuinely uncomfortable. Lady Mira. I apologize for disturbing you. His Majesty asked me to bring you something. He held out a small wooden box. He said you might want this. For after. After what? After the annulment is announced. It's a travel pass and funds for your journey home. He wanted to make sure you'd be taken care of. Of course he did. Even in ending our marriage, Hadrian was thinking of me. I took the box, something stubborn solidifying in my chest. Marcus, what time is the council meeting? Sunset. But you don't need to attend. In fact, His Majesty specifically requested that you not. And the full moon? When does it reach its peak? Marcus hesitated. 2 hours after sunset. Why? Because I'm not letting him do this. I set the box down. Where is he now? In his private chambers, preparing for the meeting. But Lady Mira, you shouldn't. I was already moving past him, through the corridors I'd learned over 3 weeks of living in this palace. Guards tried to stop me, but I pushed past them with an authority I didn't know I possessed. By the time I reached Hadrian's chambers, my heart was hammering and my hands were shaking. I didn't knock. I just opened the door and walked in. Hadrian stood by the window, already dressed in formal robes for the council meeting. He turned when he heard me enter, surprise flickering across his face. Mira? What are you? No, I said firmly. You don't get to make this decision for both of us. This isn't up for discussion. The hell it isn't. You told me about Lyanna. About the curse. About everything you've been carrying alone for years. And now you think the solution is to push me away, to give up your throne, to let the council win? I'm trying to protect you. I don't want your protection. The words burst out louder than I intended. I want you, Hadrian. I want the man who brings me wildflowers and teaches me to fight and reads poetry by the fire. I want the broken, scarred, cursed man who's been gentler with me than anyone in my entire life. I don't care about the monster you think you are. I care about you. His eyes widened, something desperate and hopeful flickering in their depths. Mira, you don't know what you're saying. The curse. Then show me. Complete the bond. Let me see for myself what you're so afraid of. It could kill you. Living without you is killing me. I crossed the room until I stood directly in front of him. Hadrian, I'm not Lyanna. I'm not asking you to be perfect or to save me. I'm asking you to trust me. To let me choose this, choose you, even knowing the risks. Why? His voice was barely a whisper. Why would you do that? Because somewhere in the last 3 weeks, I fell in love with you, you impossible, self-sacrificing idiot. For a heartbeat, he just stared at me. Then he reached out, his hand cupping my cheek with infinite gentleness. Mira. Complete the bond, I whispered. Tonight. Under the full moon. Whatever happens, we face it together. You don't understand what you're asking. Then help me understand. Stop running from this, from us. Trust me the way I trust you. I watched the war play out across his face. Hope and fear, desire and terror, love and devastating guilt. Then, slowly, he leaned down and pressed his forehead to mine. If something goes wrong, he said quietly, if the curse takes me and I hurt you, I need you to promise me something. Anything. Run. Don't try to save me. Don't try to fight. Just run and never look back. Hadrian. Promise me, Mira. Please. The desperation in his voice broke my heart. I promise. It was a lie. We both knew it. But he accepted it anyway. The council meets in an hour, he said. I'll tell them we're completing the bond tonight. That should satisfy their demands. And then? And then we wait for moonrise. His thumb traced my cheekbone. And pray that I'm strong enough not to destroy the best thing that's ever happened to me. The council meeting was mercifully brief. Hadrian announced our intention to complete the mating bond that night, and while some counselors looked skeptical, they had no grounds to refuse. Marcus caught my eye as we left the chamber, his expression unreadable. As sunset bled into twilight, Hadrian led me to a private clearing deep in the palace woods. Ancient trees formed a natural cathedral around us, their branches creating patterns against the darkening sky. A creek burbled nearby, peaceful and oblivious. This is where Lyanna and I completed our bond, Hadrian said quietly. I thought. I don't know what I thought. Maybe that her spirit would forgive me. Or stop me if this is a mistake. It's not a mistake. He turned to face me, and in the fading light, I could see the scars beginning to move beneath his skin. The moon was rising. Mira, there's still time. You can still leave. Instead of answering, I reached up and pulled him down into a kiss. For a moment, he froze. Then he kissed me back with a desperateness that stole my breath, his hands tangling in my hair, his body pressing against mine like he was trying to memorize every point of contact. When we finally broke apart, we were both shaking. I love you, he whispered against my lips. I should have said it before. I love you, Mira Ashwood, and I'm terrified of what that means. I love you too. And we're going to be okay. The moon cleared the treeline. Everything changed at once. Hadrian gasped, his body going rigid. The scars erupted across his skin, glowing with sickly purple light. I watched in horror as his bones began to crack and shift, but not the way they should. His transformation was wrong, broken, like watching something beautiful being torn apart. Hadrian. I reached for him, but he stumbled back. Stay away, he ground out through clenched teeth. Please, Mira, stay away. His clothes tore as his body convulsed. But instead of the powerful wolf I expected, something else emerged. Something caught between forms, too large to be a man, too twisted to be a wolf. His fur was matted and wrong, growing in patches over raw skin. His eyes were gold but wild, unfocused, filled with pain and rage. This was the monster he'd tried to warn me about. The creature that had been Hadrian threw back its head and howled, a sound of pure agony that echoed through the trees. Then those wild golden eyes locked on me. I should have run. I'd promised I would run. But I couldn't move. I could only watch as he charged, faster than anything that size should move, claws extended, fangs bared. Every instinct screamed at me to flee, but I stood frozen as death hurtled toward me. At the last possible second, he stopped. His claws were an inch from my throat. Close enough that I could feel the heat radiating off them, smell the copper scent of blood, his blood, from where his transformation had torn him apart. We stood there, frozen in that moment, predator and prey, monster and mate. Then I saw it. In those wild golden eyes, beneath the curse and the pain and the rage, I saw him. Hadrian. Still fighting. Still trying to protect me even as the curse tried to force him to destroy me. I see you, I whispered. I see you, Hadrian. You're still in there. The creature made a sound, half growl, half whimper. His claws trembled. I'm not afraid of you. I love you. Do you hear me? I love. He moved so fast I didn't see it coming. His claws raked across my shoulder, not deep but enough to draw blood. Pain flared bright and sharp. The creature reared back, seeming horrified by what it had done, and then it turned and fled into the forest, crashing through underbrush and disappearing into the darkness. I stood there, blood trickling down my arm, listening to the sound of his anguished howls fade into the distance. The moonlight felt cold. Accusing. His gentleness wasn't kindness, I realized with devastating clarity. It wasn't love or respect or any of the beautiful things I'd believed. It was a cage. A desperate attempt to contain the monster he knew lived inside him. And I just convinced him to let it out. I pressed my hand to my bleeding shoulder and sank to my knees in the clearing, finally understanding the true weight of what I'd asked him to do. What Lyanna must have faced. What had driven her to attempt breaking his curse knowing it might kill her. Because loving Hadrian Blackthorn didn't mean accepting a gentle, broken man. It meant facing the monster he became every full moon and deciding, again and again, whether he was worth saving. I looked up at the full moon, bright and pitiless and honest. The moon doesn't lie. And tonight, it had shown me the truth. Wanting to see what would happen next, subscribe to this channel to get to listen to more of our upcoming exciting stories. Click on the subscribe button now. Thank you. Chapter 3. I spent the 3 days after the disastrous mating night in my chambers, waiting. Waiting for Hadrian to return. Waiting for the wound on my shoulder to heal. It had closed quickly, too quickly, leaving only a thin silver scar that seemed to shimmer in certain lights. Waiting for someone, anyone, to tell me what to do next. The palace had gone quiet. Whispers followed me when I ventured out for meals. The unmated Omegas looked at me with something between pity and satisfaction. The council members avoided my eyes entirely. And Marcus, loyal Marcus, simply said, "He's alive. He's in the East Woods. He won't come back while the moon is still waxing. Can I go to him? He'd never forgive me if I let you." So I waited. And I thought about that moment in the clearing, the monster's claws at my throat, the wild gold eyes that were still somehow his, the desperate fight I'd seen him wage against his own cursed nature. The gentleness he'd shown me hadn't been a lie. It had been a prison he'd built inside himself, brick by brick, to protect everyone around him from what he became. And I'd torn down those walls with my confession and my stubborn refusal to let him face this alone. On the 4th day, I stopped waiting. I'd heard rumors about a forbidden library in the palace's oldest wing, a collection of texts deemed too dangerous for common access. If there were answers about Hadrian's curse, about what had really happened to Lyanna, they would be there. I waited until the middle of the night, then slipped through the dark corridors like the insignificant Omega everyone believed me to be. Guards barely glanced at me. I'd learned over the past month that being underestimated was its own kind of power. The library door was locked, but the mechanism was old. Simple. I'd watched Hadrian pick a similar lock during one of our training sessions, teaching me that strength wasn't always about force. Sometimes it was about patience and precision. The door clicked open. Inside, the air smelled of ancient paper and something else, magic, maybe, or just the weight of forbidden knowledge. Moonlight streamed through high windows, illuminating rows of shelves that stretched into darkness. I lit a candle from my pocket and began to search. It took hours. Most of the texts were written in old languages I couldn't read, filled with diagrams of rituals and warnings written in red ink. But finally, in a section marked with wolf symbols and protective runes, I found it. The Curse of Maternal Binding. My hands trembled as I pulled the heavy tome from the shelf and opened it to the marked page. The text was in the old tongue, but someone, maybe Hadrian himself, had written translations in the margins. When a mother fears her child's power exceeds her own, she may bind him with her own blood and darkness. The curse will manifest at the first transformation after mating, turning the blessed wolf into a creature of nightmare. Any mate who completes the bond will feed her life force to stabilize the curse, slowly consuming her until nothing remains. The bound one will watch each mate wither and die, unable to break free, unable to love without destroying. This is the mother's ultimate control, to ensure her child remains forever alone, forever dependent on her mercy. The words blurred as tears filled my eyes. His own mother had done this to him. I kept reading. The first mate knew. She attempted the breaking ritual, but without the proper bloodline, she could not contain the darkness. Her death was inevitable. The curse consumed her from within, and the bound one was forced to grant mercy. Lyanna hadn't died from the rogue attack. She died trying to break Hadrian's curse, and when the magic went wrong, when she started screaming from the darkness consuming her, he'd. I pressed my hand to my mouth, fighting the urge to be sick. And then I saw it. Written in smaller text at the bottom of the page, in handwriting that looked desperate, hurried. Countercurse: if a mate of pure bloodline willingly accepts the darkness during the full moon while marking the bound one with silver through the heart, the curse transfers temporarily. This creates a window, 3 days, to kill the witch who cast it. But the temporary bearer must survive the darkness, or both will be consumed. Only blood of the moon goddess's original line can contain such power without breaking. Moon goddess's original line. Something stirred in my memory. My mother's voice, late at night when she thought I was asleep. She must never know. If they discover what she is, they'll come for her. Promise me she'll stay hidden. My father's response: I promise. She'll live as a common Omega. She'll be safe. I'd thought they were being overprotective. Paranoid. But what if? Well. The voice came from the doorway, cold and amused. The little Omega can read. I spun around to find Counselor Vera standing in the entrance, her eyes glittering with malice. The Forbidden Library is restricted for good reason, girl. What are you doing here? Research. I closed the book carefully, trying to appear calm even as my heart raced. Trying to understand my mate's condition. Your mate. She laughed, the sound like breaking glass. You're not his mate. You're a political inconvenience who's outlived her usefulness. In fact, the council has decided to move forward with the annulment. You'll be returned to your family by week's end. You can't do that without Hadrian's consent. Can't we? The Alpha King is currently hiding in the woods like a wounded animal, unable to fulfill his duties. Some might say he's abandoned his throne. She stepped closer, and I caught the scent of something wrong, decay masked by perfume. The council has invited someone to help mediate this situation. Someone who knows Hadrian better than anyone. A cold dread settled in my stomach. Who? His mother, of course. Lady Moira Blackthorne arrives tomorrow. Vera smiled, all teeth. I'm sure she'll help her son see reason. She left, her footsteps echoing in the corridor. I stood frozen, the book clutched to my chest, understanding crashing over me like ice water. They were bringing the witch who cursed him right into the palace. And no one knew what she really was. I had to find Hadrian. Marcus tried to stop me at the east gate. Lady Mira, it's not safe. He's still my mate. Still my husband. And still in danger. I met his eyes steadily. His mother arrives tomorrow. You know what that means. Marcus went pale. He told you? I figured it out. The curse, what it does, why he can never truly be with anyone. Marcus, she can't see him like this. If she knows I've discovered the truth, then she'll kill you both. He scrubbed a hand over his face. Gods, this is a mess. All right. I'll take you to him. But if he orders you to leave, you leave. Understood? Understood. The East Woods were ancient, filled with trees that had stood for centuries. Marcus led me deep into the forest, following trails invisible to my eyes. We walked for over an hour before he stopped. He's ahead, Marcus said quietly. In the old hunting lodge. Mira, he's not himself yet. The moon is still strong. Be careful. I will. And Mira? Whatever you're planning, whatever you found in that library, think very carefully before you act. Some curses are meant to stay unbroken. He left me there, alone at the edge of a small clearing. The hunting lodge was barely visible through the trees, more of a ruins than a shelter. But I could see candlelight flickering inside. I approached slowly, my footsteps deliberately loud. Hadrian? It's me. I'm coming in. No response. I pushed open the door. He sat in the corner, human again but barely recognizable. His skin was ashen, covered in fresh scars that wept something dark and viscous. His eyes were hollow, haunted. When he saw me, he flinched back like I'd struck him. No, he rasped. You can't be here. Mira, you have to leave. Your mother is coming to the palace tomorrow. Everything about him went still. What? The council invited her. They think she's here to help mediate our situation. They don't know what she really is, do they? They don't know she's the one who cursed you. How did you? He stopped, something like fear crossing his face. The forbidden library. Gods, Mira, you shouldn't have gone there. If she finds out, you know. She's going to force you to dissolve our marriage. She has some plan involving a daughter of a rival alpha, and if you refuse, she'll manufacture a war. I crossed the room and knelt beside him, ignoring his attempt to pull away. That's her control, isn't it? She cursed you so you'd always need her, always be dependent on her power and her mercy. Every mate who tries to complete the bond dies, and you're left alone and weakened. It's worked perfectly for 20 years, he said bitterly. After Lyanna, I swore I'd never take another mate. But the council insisted, and I thought. His voice cracked. I thought maybe this time I could be strong enough to resist. To keep you safe by keeping my distance. But I failed. I hurt you. I always hurt the people I love. You didn't fail. And I found something else in that library. I pulled out the paper where I'd copied the counter curse. There's a way to break it. During the full moon, if I willingly accept your darkness while marking you with silver through the heart. No. He snatched the paper from my hands and tore it apart. Absolutely not. Do you understand what that means? The darkness would transfer to you. You'd feel everything I feel, become everything I become. It would destroy you. Only if I'm not strong enough to contain it. But Hadrian, what if I am? What if there's a reason your curse hasn't killed me yet? What are you talking about? I took a deep breath. This was it, the secret my parents had died protecting, the truth I'd been kept from my entire life. I think I'm not who I believed I was. My parents, they used to whisper about keeping me hidden, keeping me safe from people who might come for me. I thought they were just paranoid, but what if they were hiding what I really am? Mira. The counter curse requires blood of the moon goddess's original line. Someone whose power can contain the darkness without breaking. What if that's me? What if that's why you were drawn to me, why the mate bond chose me despite me being a low-ranking Omega? Hadrian stared at me like I'd grown a second head. The moon goddess's bloodline died out centuries ago. The last known descendant was killed in the Great Purge. Or she went into hiding. Changed her name. Had a daughter who had a daughter who had a daughter, each one taught to blend in, to seem ordinary, to survive. I met his eyes. I healed too quickly. That scar on my shoulder from your claws? It closed in hours and now it glows silver in moonlight. I've never gotten sick, never been injured seriously, and every time I'm near you, I feel something, like power recognizing power. Even if that's true, and that's a massive if, I won't risk you. The ritual could still kill you, bloodline or not. And if we do nothing? Your mother forces you into another political marriage, manufactures a war that will kill thousands, and keeps you under her control for the rest of your life. Is that what you want? I want you alive. I am alive. For the first time in my life, I'm truly alive, and it's because of you. I grabbed his face, forcing him to look at me. Hadrian, I love you. I choose you. I choose this fight. Let me help you. Let me be strong enough for both of us. Tears tracked down his ravaged face. I can't watch another mate die because of me. I can't, Mira. It will break me. Then we make sure I don't die. I leaned forward and pressed my forehead to his, the way he'd done to me so many times. We have until tomorrow night, the next full moon. That's when we do the ritual. And then we have 3 days to kill your mother before the curse consumes me. This is insane. This is love. I pulled back and smiled, even though I was terrified. And love makes us do insane things. For a long moment, he just looked at me. Then, so quietly I almost missed it, if we do this, if we really do this, and something goes wrong, I need you to know that these past weeks with you have been the happiest of my entire life. You made me believe I could be more than the monster everyone fears. You are more. You always have been. I stood and offered him my hand. Come back to the palace with me. We have work to do. He took my hand and let me help him up. The council won't like you being here. Especially not once my mother arrives. Good thing I'm done caring what the council likes. We walked back through the forest together, hand in hand, preparing for a war we might not survive. Lady Moira Blackthorne arrived at sunset the next day with an entourage that could have been an invading army. I watched from the tower window as her carriage rolled through the gates, black lacquered wood, drawn by 6 midnight horses, guards in blood-red uniforms flanking either side. She emerged like a queen, tall and beautiful in a way that felt wrong, like looking at a painting where all the proportions were slightly off. She looks like you, I said to Hadrian, who stood rigid beside me. I look like her. She made sure of that. Wanted her legacy reflected in every mirror I pass. His jaw clenched. She'll know something is different the moment she sees us together. She always knows. Then we don't give her the chance. I turned to face him. Let me meet her first. Alone. Absolutely not. She'll be focused on you, on reasserting her control. But I'm just the insignificant Omega, remember? She won't see me as a threat. You are many things, Mira Ashwood, but insignificant has never been one of them. Before I could respond, Marcus burst through the door. Your Majesty, Lady Moira has requested an immediate audience with you and Lady Mira both. The council is assembling in the throne room. Hadrian's hand found mine. Together then. Together. The throne room had been transformed. Where before it had been imposing but relatively simple, now it dripped with dark opulence, black candles, blood-red tapestries, arrangements of night-blooming flowers that smelled like funerals. Lady Moira stood at the center of it all, holding court like she'd never left. "Darling boy." She glided forward when we entered, arms outstretched. "Come, let your mother embrace you. It's been far too long." Hadrian's entire body was rigid. "Mother. This is unexpected." "Is it? When the council writes to me with such concern about my son's well-being, how could I not come?" Her eyes, the same storm gray as Hadrian's, fixed on me with laser focus. "And this must be the little Omega causing all the fuss. How quaint." "Mira is my mate," Hadrian said firmly. "My choice. My Luna." "Is she?" Moira circled me like a predator assessing prey. I felt her power brush against me, cold and probing, trying to find weakness. "She bears no mark. You've completed no bond. By all accounts, you've barely touched her. That's not a mating, darling. That's charity." "With respect, Lady Moira," I kept my voice level despite my racing heart, "my relationship with your son is not your concern." Her laugh was musical and terrible. "Oh, but it is. Everything about my son is my concern. I'm the one who gave him life, who raised him, who protected him from those who would see him fall. And I'm the one who will save him now from this disastrous match." "Mother." "Hush, Hadrian. The adults are talking." She turned to address the assembled council. "Honored members, I come with a solution to this crisis. As you know, the Northern Pax Alpha has a daughter of prime mating age, strong bloodline, proven fertility, political connections that would strengthen rather than weaken our position. I've already opened negotiations for a marriage contract. All that's required is dissolving this unfortunate arrangement." "The arrangement is my marriage," Hadrian's voice was deadly quiet. "Not a business contract to be dissolved at your whim. Your marriage is a mockery. You haven't even consummated it. The girl has no power, no influence, nothing to offer you but a warm body in your bed, which, apparently, she can't even provide successfully." Moira's smile was poisonous. "But I'm not unreasonable. If you truly care for the little Omega, I'll ensure she's returned to her family with a generous settlement. She'll want for nothing. You can even visit her, if you must. I'm not asking you to stop caring, darling. Just to be practical. And if I refuse? Then I'll be forced to share some unfortunate news with the council." She pulled a letter from her sleeve. "It seems the Southern Pack has been massing troops near our borders. The Eastern Alliance has cut off trade routes. The Western Territories have declared your rule questionable, and are considering whether a leadership challenge might be in order. War is coming, Hadrian. Unless you show strength. Unless you prove you can put duty before sentiment." I watched Hadrian's face as he processed what she was saying. This wasn't just manipulation, it was a coordinated attack. She'd been orchestrating this from the beginning, setting him up to fail, to need her. "Of course," Moira continued, "if you agree to the new marriage contract, I'm certain I could use my influence to smooth over these complications. Prevent unnecessary bloodshed. Keep the peace." Her eyes glittered. "All I'm asking is that you trust your mother to know what's best." The throne room was silent. Every council member watched, waiting to see if their Alpha King would bow to his mother's will. I felt it then, a pull deep in my chest, like something waking up. Power. Old power. The kind that had been sleeping in my blood for generations, waiting for this moment. I stepped forward. "Lady Moira," I said clearly, "I have a counterproposal." Everyone turned to stare at me. Hadrian's hand caught my wrist. "Mira, don't. Let me speak." I gently pulled free and faced the witch who'd cursed the man I loved. "You want Hadrian to dissolve our marriage and mate with someone more suitable. Someone you can control. But what if I can prove that I'm exactly who he needs? That I'm stronger than you think?" Moira's eyes narrowed. And how would you do that, little Omega? By completing the mating bond. Tonight. During the full moon. In front of the entire court. I felt Hadrian's shock, heard his sharp intake of breath, but I kept my eyes on his mother. If I survive what he becomes, if I can not only survive but accept his darkness fully, then you withdraw your claim. You accept our marriage. You leave us alone. Mira, no. Hadrian grabbed my arm, spinning me to face him. You can't, we haven't prepared. And if you fail? Moira's voice cut through his protest. If you die screaming like the last one? Then you get what you wanted anyway. Hadrian will be free to make whatever match you choose. I looked back at her steadily. Do we have an agreement? The witch smiled slowly. Oh, this will be entertaining. Yes, little Omega. We have an agreement. She turned to the council. You all heard it. Tonight, during the full moon, she'll attempt to complete the mating bond with my son. And when she fails, when she's nothing but another corpse that couldn't handle what he is, you'll all see that I was right. That some matches are doomed from the start. She swept from the room, her entourage following. The council members dispersed, already whispering among themselves. Soon it would be all over the palace. The Omega had challenged the Alpha King's mother. The Omega was going to attempt what had killed Lyanna Blackthorn. The Omega was going to die tonight. When we were finally alone, Hadrian turned on me. What were you thinking? We haven't done the bloodline verification. We don't know for certain if you can contain the curse. I know. I placed my hand over my heart, where that strange power still hummed. I feel it, Hadrian. I feel what I am. What I've always been. I met his desperate eyes. Trust me. The way I trust you. If this goes wrong, then we fight our way out of it. Together. I pulled him close and kissed him, pouring everything I felt into it, love and fear and desperate hope. Tonight, we break your curse. And then we end your mother's reign of terror once and for all. The moon was rising. And with it, the truth would finally come to light. If you're still listening to this story up to this point, why don't you subscribe to this channel to continue getting impactful daily stories like this? We would be most grateful if you can do that to help boost this video to reach everyone. Thank you. Chapter 4. The moon rose like a judge's gavel. I stood in the center of the ceremonial circle they'd drawn in the palace courtyard, wearing nothing but a thin white shift and my own trembling determination. Every member of the court surrounded me, council members, pack leaders, warriors, servants. They'd all come to watch the insignificant Omega fail spectacularly. Lady Moira sat on a raised dais, elegant and serene, already victorious in her own mind. Beside her, looking like he might be sick, sat Hadrian. They'd dressed him in formal robes, made him look every inch the Alpha King. But I could see the truth in his eyes, the terror, the love, the desperate prayer that somehow I'd survive what was coming. Marcus stood near the circle's edge, his hand on a silver blade. He'd agreed to be my second, the one who would grant mercy if the curse consumed me. His face was carved from stone, but I'd seen him weeping in the armory earlier, polishing that blade like he could somehow make it kinder. The terms are set, announced High Elder Thorn, his voice carrying across the silent courtyard. Lady Mira Ashwood will attempt to complete the mating bond with Alpha King Hadrian Blackthorn during the full moon transformation. Should she survive and successfully bond with him in his cursed form, Lady Moira's claim is forfeit. Should she fail? He paused, grim. May the moon goddess grant her peace. How touching, Moira called out, examining her nails. Though I do think this is unnecessarily dramatic. The girl could simply withdraw her challenge. I'd even let her keep a small cottage somewhere. No one would think less of her for choosing survival. I choose him, I said clearly. I'll always choose him. Hadrian made a sound like something breaking. Then let us begin. Thorn nodded to the guards. Bring forth the Alpha King. They unlocked Hadrian's silver chains. Yes, they'd actually chained him, for everyone's safety, and he stood slowly. Our eyes met across the circle. In his gaze, I saw everything he couldn't say in front of his mother. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Please survive. I nodded once. Trust me. He stepped into the circle. The moon cleared the palace towers. I'd seen his transformation once before, but this time I was closer, close enough to hear the sound of bones breaking and reforming, close enough to smell the copper-sweet scent of the curse activating in his blood. His body convulsed, clothes shredding, and I watched the man I loved twist into something between wolf and nightmare. The curse manifested in waves of sickly purple light, crawling across his skin like living things. Where it touched, his fur grew matted and wrong, his muscles bulged unnaturally, his spine curved at angles that made my stomach turn. The beast that emerged was massive and terrible, all rage and pain and barely contained violence. Golden eyes locked on me. Wild. Hungry. Lost. The crowd gasped, some backing away despite the protective barriers. This was the monster they'd heard about but never truly seen, the cursed Alpha King in all his broken glory. I stepped forward. Mira, no. Hadrian's voice came out distorted, barely recognizable. Stay back. Never. I kept walking until I stood directly in front of him, close enough to touch. I see you, Hadrian. All of you. And I'm not afraid. The beast snarled, showing fangs as long as daggers. His claws flexed, and I knew he was fighting himself, fighting the curse, fighting the instinct to tear me apart. I love you, I whispered. And I'm going to save you. Then I pulled the silver blade from where I'd hidden it in my shift and drove it straight through his heart. The world exploded. Hadrian roared, the sound shaking the very stones of the palace. The curse erupted from him in waves of visible darkness, pouring out like blood from a mortal wound. But instead of dissipating, it came for me, wrapping around my arms, my legs, my throat, pulling me toward him like chains. I'd known it would hurt. I'd prepared myself for pain. I hadn't prepared for this. The curse entered me through every pore, every breath, every heartbeat. And with it came everything. Decades of agony compressed into seconds. I felt every transformation that had torn him apart, every moment of watching himself hurt someone he loved, every night of lying awake terrified of what he'd become. The loneliness was worst. A yawning chasm of isolation, of being too dangerous to love, too broken to fix, too monstrous to deserve happiness. I screamed. Gods, I screamed until my throat was raw, until I tasted blood, until I wasn't sure if I was Mira or Hadrian or some terrible fusion of both. Stop it. Moira's voice cut through the chaos, and for the first time, she sounded genuinely alarmed. What is she? This isn't possible. But it was happening. The curse poured into me, and my body changed. My skin began to glow. Not the sickly purple of the curse, but silver, pure, radiant, ancient. The power I'd felt humming in my blood all my life roared to the surface, and suddenly I understood. My parents hadn't just hidden me to keep me safe. They'd hidden me because I was a weapon. A key. A living conduit to power that predated even the werewolf curse itself. The moon goddess's bloodline didn't just contain curses. It transformed them. The silver light spread from my skin to the blade still buried in Hadrian's chest. I watched through tears as the curse writhed inside me, trying to consume me like it had consumed Lyanna. But where Lyanna had been strong, I was something else entirely. The curse hit my blood and burned. No, Moira stood, her composure finally cracking. No, you can't, the bloodline was extinct. You're right that you miscalculated, I gasped out, still holding the blade in Hadrian's chest. Around us, the protective barriers were cracking, unable to contain the power building in the circle. You cursed him to keep him weak. To prevent the prophecy. But you forgot one thing. What? Her voice was sharp with fear. True mates always find each other. I met her eyes and smiled through the agony. And you led him straight to me. The curse inside me reached critical mass. And then it did something impossible. It called. The sound was beyond hearing, a vibration that traveled through the earth itself, through the air, through the very fabric of reality. And every cursed wolf within 100 miles felt it like a hook in their souls. They came. They poured through the palace gates like a flood, wolves twisted by dark magic, bearing curses of every variety. Some were stuck between forms like Hadrian had been. Others bore physical manifestations of their torment, eternally burning fur, limbs that wouldn't stop growing, minds fractured by madness. They came because something called them. Something that promised an end to their suffering. Me. The court descended into chaos. Guards tried to hold the line, but there were too many cursed wolves. They weren't attacking, they were drawn, compelled, moths to a silver flame. They surrounded the circle, hundreds of eyes fixed on me with desperate hope. Mira. Marcus was at the barrier, trying to reach me. What's happening? The bloodline. I called back, my voice strange with power. It's not just containing the curse. It's offering to break them all. And it was killing me in the process. I could feel it now, the curse wasn't just transferring to me. It was trying to use me as a catalyst, to break every curse simultaneously. My body wasn't meant to channel this much power. No mortal body was. The silver light was getting brighter, hotter, burning through me from the inside out. I was dying. And I was taking every curse with me. No. The roar came from Hadrian. I'd almost forgotten he was there, forgotten the blade still buried in his chest. But now I watched as something miraculous happened. The curse left him completely. The purple light drained away, the twisted form corrected itself, and for the first time in decades, Hadrian Blackthorn transformed. Fully. Perfectly. Into the most magnificent wolf I'd ever seen. He was enormous, easily twice the size of any normal alpha, with fur like midnight silk and eyes that burned pure gold. This was what he was meant to be, not a monster, not a curse, but a true alpha king in all his glory. Power radiated off him in waves, primal and devastating and beautiful. And he was looking at me like his heart was breaking. The wolf's form shimmered, and suddenly Hadrian was himself again, naked, scarred, but whole. The silver blade fell from his chest, the wound already healing. He caught me as my legs gave out, as the curse and the power warred inside me for dominance. You foolish, brave, impossible woman, he breathed, holding me against his chest. What have you done? Saved you, I managed. Blood trickled from my nose, my ears. Now, go. Find your mother. End this. You have 3 days. I'm not leaving you. You have to. I grabbed his face with shaking hands. She's trying to run. She knows I've activated the bloodline. She'll disappear, and the window will close, and I'll die for nothing. Please, Hadrian. Go. The anguish in his eyes could have leveled mountains. But he was an alpha king, and he understood duty. He kissed me once, fierce and desperate and full of promises, then shifted again into that magnificent wolf and bounded away, tracking his mother's scent through the chaos of cursed wolves still arriving at the palace. Marcus caught me before I hit the ground. I've got you. Stay with me, Mira. Stay awake. But it was so hard. The power was eating me alive, and the curse, gods, the curse was so heavy. I could feel every cursed wolf now, feel their pain, their hope, their desperate prayer that I could save them. I'm trying, I thought. I'm trying so hard. Your Majesty. One of the healers fought through the crowd. We need to get her inside, stabilize her. No. My voice was barely a whisper, but they heard it. The wolves. They need to touch me. Skin to skin. It's the only way to break their individual curses without killing them all at once. That's insane, the healer protested. The power drain will I'm dying anyway. I forced my eyes open, forced myself to focus. Let me help them first. Please. Marcus looked at me for a long moment, then nodded. You heard her. Form a line. One at a time, shift to human form, and touch her hand. Make it quick, we don't have much time. They came. One by one, the cursed wolves shifted to their human forms and took my hand. And one by one, I felt their curses flow into me, meeting the silver fire of my bloodline, and burning away. It hurt, gods, it hurt worse than anything I'd ever felt, but it was worth it to see their faces. The shock. The relief. The tears as they realized they were finally free. I lost count after 50. Maybe 100. My vision was blurring, my body going cold despite the fire in my veins. But I kept going because these people had suffered, and I could help them, and wasn't that what power was supposed to be for? Enough. Marcus finally pulled my hand away as another wolf reached for me. No more. She can't take any more. But there are still. I said enough. His voice cracked with desperation. Where the hell is Hadrian? As if summoned by his name, a howl split the night. It came from the North Tower, long and mournful and triumphant. Every wolf in the courtyard froze, recognizing an alpha's victory call. He'd found her. Later, they'd tell me what happened in the North Tower. How Hadrian tracked his mother through the palace, his newly freed wolf form faster and stronger than anything she'd prepared for. How she tried to flee through a portal, a last escape route she'd prepared years ago. How he'd caught her by the throat and dragged her back, slamming the portal closed with his own power. How she'd smiled even as his claws closed around her neck. You think you've won? Moira had laughed, blood bubbling on her lips. You think breaking the curse changes anything? I cursed you because I saw the future, darling boy. I saw what would happen if you found your true mate, if an uncursed alpha king with your power bonded with a descendant of the moon goddess's bloodline. Then tell me, Hadrian had growled. Tell me why you tortured me for 20 years. Because your mating would trigger the prophecy. The veil between worlds would shatter. The old gods would return, the ones who enslaved our kind millennia ago, who treated werewolves as their playthings and weapons. They were sealed away by the moon goddess herself, and the seal can only be broken by a true mating of bloodlines as powerful as yours. Her eyes had gleamed with zealous certainty. I was saving the world. I was the hero. And you're the fool who's going to destroy everything for love. Hadrian had stared at her. So you cursed me. Made me suffer. Killed Lyanna. Tried to kill Mira. All to prevent a prophecy. To prevent the apocalypse. And did it ever occur to you, he'd said softly, that maybe the prophecy wasn't meant to be stopped? That maybe it was meant to happen exactly this way? Then he'd torn her throat out. She died still believing she was right. Still convinced she'd been the hero of her own story. And maybe, in a twisted way, she had been. She'd seen a terrible future and done terrible things to prevent it. She just hadn't counted on love being stronger than fate. I felt it the moment she died. The curse inside me, the one still killing me slowly, suddenly had nowhere to anchor. It writhed and thrashed, trying to find its source, its creator. And finding nothing, it began to unravel. The pain intensified to something beyond description. I felt like I was being torn apart and remade simultaneously, every cell in my body rewriting itself. The silver light grew so bright that people had to look away, so hot that the stones beneath me began to crack. Mira. Hadrian's voice, desperate and close. When had he gotten back? Mira, hold on, I'm here. The prophecy, I gasped, grabbing his hand. She was right. We're triggering it. I can feel the veil, tearing. Then let it tear. He pulled me against his chest, and I felt his heart hammering. I don't care about prophecies or gods or the world itself. I choose you, Mira. I choose you over everything. But No. His hand cupped my face, forcing me to meet his eyes. I'm the Alpha King. I've spent my whole life making choices for the good of others, sacrificing my happiness for duty and honor. But not this time. Not you. I love you. And if the world burns because of it, then I'll rule over the ashes with you by my side. Tears streamed down my face. Hadrian, the old gods, if they return, then we'll fight them. Together. He leaned down, his lips brushing mine. Complete the bond with me, Mira. Accept me as I accept you. And let fate do its worst. I should have said no. Should have pushed him away, let the curse kill me, save the world from whatever horror was about to be unleashed. But I was done being noble. Done being selfless. Done pretending I didn't want this with every fiber of my being. Yes, I whispered against his lips. Yes, I choose you too. He kissed me then, deep and claiming, and I felt his teeth graze my throat. The traditional mating mark. The final seal of our bond. I love you, he breathed. My mate. My Luna. My Mira. His fangs sank into my throat. The world exploded. The veil between worlds didn't just tear, it shattered. I felt it like glass breaking inside my skull, felt the ancient seals placed by the moon goddess herself crumbling away. And through the cracks came power. Old power. Divine power. The kind that had existed before werewolves, before humans, before the current world order. The old gods were returning. But something was wrong. Or rather, something was different. The power that poured through the shattered veil didn't feel malevolent. It felt curious. Confused. Almost hesitant. Like waking from a long sleep and finding the world completely changed. And then I understood. The prophecy hadn't been about destruction. It had been about transformation. The old gods had been sealed away by the moon goddess not because they were evil, but because they were too powerful. They'd treated werewolves as slaves not out of malice, but because that was the only relationship they'd ever known, gods and servants, masters and tools. The moon goddess had sealed them away and given werewolves free will, hoping that one day, her children would be strong enough to face their former masters as equals. Hoping that one day, a true mating, one built on choice, not destiny, would show the old gods a better way. Our combined power, Hadrian's and mine, was rewriting reality itself. The bond between us, forged through suffering and choice and unconditional love, was creating new rules. The old gods were returning, but they were returning to a world where werewolves had free will. Where mates chose each other. Where even curses could be broken by love strong enough to survive them. The old gods couldn't control that. Couldn't manipulate it. Couldn't reduce it to servitude. So instead, they'd have to learn to coexist. Mira? Hadrian's voice was odd. What's happening? I looked up at him and smiled, even as divine power rewrote my very DNA, even as the curse inside me finally burned away completely, even as I felt myself becoming something new, not quite mortal, not quite divine, but perfectly, impossibly alive. We're changing the rules, I said. We're making it so that no one, not gods, not witches, not even prophecy itself, can take away our choice. Our power. Our love. The silver light exploded outward from us in a wave that swept across the entire kingdom. And everywhere it touched, chains broke. Curses shattered. Pack hierarchies that had bound wolves to rigid roles for millennia simply dissolved. In that moment, every Omega gained the power to challenge an Alpha. Every Beta found the strength to lead. Every Alpha learned to bow to those they'd once commanded. Not because they were forced to, but because the very concept of forced anything had been burned away. We'd freed them all. When the light finally faded, I found myself lying in Hadrian's arms, both of us naked and exhausted and fundamentally changed. Around us, the courtyard was silent. Every wolf, cursed and freed, pack leader and Omega, young and old, stood staring at us with expressions of wonder. And above us, visible through the thinning veil, I could see them. The old gods. Vast and powerful and ancient beyond measure, watching this new world with something that might have been respect. You have earned your freedom, a voice said, resonating in everyone's minds simultaneously. And we have much to learn from you. Perhaps there is more than one way for gods and mortals to exist together. Then they pulled back, not sealed away but simply, waiting. Watching. Giving us space to build our new world without their interference. Is it over? Hadrian whispered, his hand tracing the mating mark on my throat. No. I turned to look at him, at this magnificent, broken, healed man who'd chosen me over everything. It's just beginning. We have a kingdom to rebuild. New rules to establish. An entire species to teach that they can choose their own paths now. Sounds exhausting. Sounds perfect. I kissed him, tasting salt and copper and the promise of forever. As long as we do it together. Together, he agreed, and helped me stand. We faced the crowd, our pack, our people, our witnesses, and I saw the future reflected in their eyes. It wouldn't be easy. Change never was. There would be resistance from those who'd benefited from the old hierarchies, confusion from those who'd never known anything different, fear from those who couldn't imagine a world without rigid structure. But there would also be hope. Freedom. The chance for every wolf to become who they were meant to be, not who they were born to be. Marcus was the first to kneel, followed by the healers, then the guards, then wave after wave of wolves, not in submission, but in acknowledgement. In gratitude. In the choice to follow leaders who'd proven they'd burn the world down before letting fate dictate their lives. All hail the Alpha King and Luna, Marcus called out. Breakers of curses. Rewriters of fate. Leaders of the new age. The chant was picked up by hundreds of throats, all hail. All hail. Hadrian squeezed my hand, and I felt his wolf's joy singing through our bond. After decades of loneliness, of being too dangerous to love, too broken to lead, too cursed to hope, he was finally free. We were finally free. Ready to change the world, my love? I asked. He grinned, and it transformed his entire face into something young and wild and unbearably beautiful. With you? Always. We walked forward together, into a future we'd carved out with blood and silver and love stronger than prophecy itself. Behind us, the old gods watched. Ahead of us, our pack waited. And between us, the mating bond burned bright and true, proof that some things couldn't be controlled by anyone. Not curses. Not mothers. Not even fate itself. Because the beast you fear most is sometimes the one who'll love you best. And the gentle king who says, you don't have to fear me? He's the one who'll burn the world down if you ask him to. But more importantly, he's the one who'll build a better world with you when the ashes cool. And that, I thought as Hadrian pulled me close and we began the work of creating our new kingdom, was the real magic. Not prophecies or curses or divine intervention. Just two people who chose each other, again and again, until even the gods had to respect it. 3 months later. You're sure about this? Hadrian asked, holding my hand as we stood at the edge of the new council chamber. I looked at the faces assembled inside, former Omegas sitting beside former Alphas, Betas leading discussions, wolves of every rank and background working together to draft the new laws that would govern our kind. No more rigid hierarchies. No more forced matings. No more curses hiding in the shadows because no one dared speak of them. I'm sure, I said, squeezing his hand. This is what we fought for. What we almost died for. A world where every wolf can choose. Even if they choose chaos. Even then. Freedom is messy. But it's better than the alternative. He kissed my temple. Have I mentioned today that I love you? Only twice. You're slacking. His laugh rumbled through our bond, warm and real and home. We entered the chamber together, ready to face whatever came next. Because we'd learned the most important lesson of all, the monsters we fear are often just broken people who need someone brave enough to love them anyway. And sometimes, loving them doesn't just save one person. It changes everything. Thank you for watching this video. Subscribe, like and share this video to continue listening to this type of story daily and also, to appreciate this community too. I would like to hear your wonderful opinion about this story. Please comment below.